Welcome to Viewmasters. Rusty, we are back. And because the fans demanded it, we are talking about Ralph Bakshi's The Lord of the Rings.
And today's a special day, everyone. It's Eddie D's birthday.
Wow. Yes, it is. This is my birthday episode. This is why I chose this movie, which is a very formative film in my life.
And birthday dreams do come true, they say.
Yes, they did say that once.
Any big plans for your birthday?
Oh, wow. I mean, I've already done so much. People love podcast talk on here. I went to see We Hate Movies live, which was a great experience.
You've been talking about that for months.
I know.
You really have been.
I'm such a big fan that I was excited for months that they were going to. And I came home for my birthday weekend where I was with my brother and his family in Santa Barbara early for We Hate Movies.
On many occasions, you've told me that if you ever befriended them, you would leave this show in a second and join their show.
They're like, we need the fifth Beatle of We Hate Movies. That's why I've thought about editing an episode where I just like add my voice. I'm just like, oh yeah, that's so true, guys. That's so true. But dude, it was packed, and there was tons of fans who were like me, single men of my age.
How many incels are we talking?
Well, okay. So I got the meet and greet ticket, and I wasn't sure that I was going to use it or not. Like I was leaving, I was kind of tired. It was a great show. But here's one funny thing: they like use those bags where you put your phone in, so your phone is like locked in a bag. Have you ever experienced that?
I don't leave my house, so I don't know what you're talking about.
I must have. So they put your phone like a canvas bag, and it like locks it, and you don't get it unlocked till you're leaving, so you can't use your phone in the venue. I must have like mashed just this. I just kept looking at this bag as if it was my phone. But so they sat me like in like everyone in my row was like a single male of my age, but they like really packed us in. And like the guys on either side of me were huge, which is cool. But like we all like knew that we were all uncomfortable. And you had to get like a 2-drink or 2-item minimum. So I had to be like, okay, what can I like eat with like fucking velociraptor hands? So I got like a pretzel. It's like I could barely move.
There's nothing more I hate than being like closely packed with people that you don't know. You're just picking up their smell.
But
wait,
dude. So I didn't know. Oh, what were we gonna say?
I just want to know now. When you came out here and you stayed with me for a couple of days, you had 2 We Hate Movie t-shirts. Did you wear one of those to this event?
No, I did not.
Oh, you're not one of those people.
I wore a tuxedo. But so I was like kind of tired at the end of the show, and I was like, oh, maybe I'll just go home. And I walked towards like the meet and greet line, and I was like, I'm not going to get on. And then like the security guy was like, oh, this line? And I was like, oh yeah, I guess so. So I get in line. I get in line, and there's a guy behind me who's there alone who seems fucking insane. Like, like when the guys from We Hate Movies emerge, it's like all in this courtyard, and we're like on this kind of winding line to like get a photo with them. And when he sees them, he's like to himself, he's just like, yeah, yes, there's the guy. There's the guys. And every time someone would take a photo, he's like, yep, nailed it. Good photo. And wait, I'm sorry. At one point, the people ahead of me were talking about like, they're like, oh yeah, I've really liked the new episodes they're doing. Like the new episodes are good, blah, blah, blah. And this guy suddenly walks up towards them and is like, but don't you think Eric is doing a joke too much where he like mispronounces words on purpose? Like, don't you think that he's doing like a little too much? And one of those people was like, wow, you're like Reddit came to life and is like just talking in front of my face, and I didn't ask for it. That's really interesting. And I was like, oh, wow. I was like, this guy was just a huge dick to this guy, but he doesn't realize that he's like totally crazy.
I'm surprised he didn't get murdered.
I was so. Anyway, what were you going to
say? The sad irony is that that guy's on his podcast right now saying there was a crazy guy ahead of me online. He didn't say a word. He didn't move his arms when he walked.
Well, he was.
He's wearing a tuxedo. He's just there in a tuxedo.
The funny thing was, so the guy in front of me, which I totally respect this, but this guy was also alone. This one guy in front of me, and I started to notice that he was like shaking a lot.
Oh my God.
Like he was like
It's
really
just
nervous to meet them. He was just fucking shaking. And
it's like the chain gang of the Biggest Losers.
It is. So I noticed as the line's going up, I was like, okay, so it looks like what happens is you hand your phone to the person behind you. And I was like, so shaky guy is going to hand me his phone.
Oh, no.
I was like, so I'm going to like take the photo. And so as we're getting towards there, the crazy guy behind me is like inching towards me. And so shaky guy turns to us and he's like, hey, can one of you guys like take a photo? And the crazy guy's like, yeah, I will. And I was like, I've got it. And, like, I took like the phone out of his like shaky hands. And he goes up to the guys and he's like, you guys have got me through like the hardest time of my life. And like,
Oh my God.
he made them this whole elaborate gift and everything, which is, that's nice.
For the record, you are also a person that has written them emails
Yes.
with content to get on the show for them to read your.
Yes.
And you have not appeared as of yet.
Never. And these emails were really good.
Can you imagine if the show ever takes off and we get bigger, if somebody came up to you, I'm saying you because they won't come up to me, but and they said that you helped me through a tough time? That would be pretty crazy.
Can you imagine if they said you put me into a tough time?
That I can imagine.
But yeah, so because it is my birthday and we always do birthday episodes that are kind of movies that were important to us, like your formative film was just one of the guys, a sex-crazed maniac. And my formative film is this, Ralph Bakshi's Lord of the Rings, a confusing mess.
You really answer a lot of questions for our listeners about you. They're like, oh, that makes sense now.
Yeah, that's true.
It all makes sense.
Yeah.
If somebody like marathoned all our episodes, they would have you almost like a picture of you almost completed by now. They'd be like, okay, I get it now.
The amount of personal data is incredible.
You know what's funny though? A lot of people that will mention that they listen to the podcast to me, they always say, wow, Ed always reveals so much about himself. He really doesn't hold back. I said, well, he has no shame. That's who he is.
That's why this show can't become popular. No. That's why I repress all like how I'm not sure if it's true, but that story about Rod Stewart trying to destroy all copies of The Wicker Man because his wife appeared naked in it. That's like me in this podcast. Yet I keep recording them.
It's got to be a release for you to some degree.
I find the word release a little too sordid.
That's exactly the answer that you would expect.
Yeah, no, that's true. So Lord of the Rings.
Oh, let's jump into it.
This movie was huge for me, which is weird because you don't find anyone saying this is a great movie.
No, I did enjoy it though. I've never seen this until 2 days ago, but
it was, I've said this before on the podcast, but it was the first movie I ever watched on a VCR. My father brought home a VCR from the school where he was principal, and we rented a movie, and it was Lord of the Rings. And I remember saying, I don't want to watch a movie about a jewel thief, but I had to be like 4 years old. And my God, I loved this movie when I saw it. And I still remember my family, we only watched the first 45 minutes. And then the next morning at breakfast, my brothers were like, that movie was stupid. And I was like, that movie was great. And then my dad was like, I like the part where Frodo says, go back to Land of Mordor and follow me no more. And then he'd make me perform that line for like the rest of my childhood.
At first I thought, like when you said that you saw this at 4 years old, it's probably not an appropriate film for a 4-year-old.
Oh my God, yeah. I thought when I was a little kid, I thought this movie was so badass. I would show it to every new friend and I'd watch them out of the corner of my eye being like, how are they going to react to all this blood? And this was like my Faces of Death from ages 4 to 14 until I saw the actual Faces of Death. And then that became my Faces of Death at age 15 or whatever.
So present day, what's your Faces of Death?
Just walking down my street.
But the thing is that if you're not familiar with Lord of the Rings at all, it's kind of a complicated movie to jump into.
It is.
So I think seeing it as a kid though, you could probably fill in the blanks a lot easier. You could just kind of write that your own story where they left out a lot of bits.
It's really true. As an adult, I found I was kind of like, this story jumps around in such a weird way, but as a kid, you just accept it.
Yeah, exactly.
This was such a huge movie for me as a kid that every pet we would get, we'd say, what should we name it? And I'd always say Floto. I still remember my brothers, we got like a fish tank and they were like, what should we call this fish? And I was like, Floto. And they're like, not Frodo. We're not calling it Frodo. And then I remember I said, what about Twan?
That's a pretty cool name though for a fish. Wait, but did you have a crush on Frodo or did you secretly want to be Frodo?
Oh no, I saw myself in Frodo.
Did you see yourself as the unlikely hero in life?
Oh yeah, of course. Except for the unlikely part.
Did you like all the characters growing up, or when you first saw this? Some of the animation on the characters makes you hate them.
Oh yeah. Well, we're gonna get to that. The thing about this movie though is it feels like it's from another world, but it feels like a dumber world. It's from another dumber world, but still another world. Like it's just so weird.
Yeah, it's totally different than what I imagined it to be. But I did find it like stylistic.
Oh yeah. I think there's times where it's cool looking, and you're like, oh, I'm digging this, dude.
I mean, it totally feels 70s. The look of it is 70s animation, but there's definitely a vibe to it.
I remember because I was so into this movie as a kid, I like wanted to be into Ralph Bakshi. So like in my early teens, I was always like seeking out Ralph Bakshi stuff. And did you ever get into any of his work? It always felt like too sleazy for me to deal with as a kid.
I've had the Wizards DVD since I started buying DVDs, and I still have yet to watch it.
Oh my God. Wizards, I saw that like when I was like 6 years old, like when I was so young, and I used to watch it all the time.
Did you see Fritz the Cat when you were young?
I've still never seen Fritz the Cat, but okay. Here's something about how our world has changed. Wizards, such a weird movie about, I don't remember exactly, but I just remember like the evil people find like Nazi propaganda in kind of like a Lord of the Rings future. And so there's like a lot of swastikas in this cartoon. And Tolkien's daughter loved Wizards.
Interesting.
She loved that movie. And so that is why she gave Ralph Bakshi the rights to Lord of the Rings.
Oh, wow. That's interesting.
Yet when Amazon just acquired the rights to Lord of the Rings just last year or whatever it was, they spent $250 million. So in the 70s, someone liked the weird movie Wizards, and now someone paid $250 million.
Wow. Times have certainly changed.
One classic unmade Lord of the Rings. It was reported that the Beatles wanted Stanley Kubrick to direct an adaptation of the novel where the Fab Four would have starred in the movie.
They were the Hobbits?
Yeah.
That would have been cool in a weird way, though. I mean, I'm just picturing Yellow Submarine with in the Lord of the Rings world.
Hey Gandalf, I can't do a Beatles accent. Hey Gandalf, he's a little son. I want to hold your hand, specifically the one with a ring on it.
I'm closing my eyes. I can't imagine. I can't picture what beetle that is. It's like a
hey Gandalf.
It's like Ringo with a cold.
Hey Gandalf,
help us. You got to do that like English, like help us.
You know, people talk about that. People talk about that fifth Beatle. But what about the sixth Beatle? He probably felt even more overlooked.
You know, we have a English following. They're probably very offended by your Beatles impression.
Most people have tuned out by now. they know the birthday episode is going to be a wild one. One more famous thing about the origin of this film. Yeah. It was originally developed by John Borman, and the remnants of it became Excalibur. And I wonder if you remember who he was doing it with. Our old friend Rospo Pallenberg, writer-director of Cutting Class.
If people didn't tune out before, they certainly tuned out now. Cutting Class.
One of our more unpopular episodes, but I think it was a good one.
Wait, before we move forward, I just want to correct you on something. Wasn't that actually written by... Yeah, wasn't that written by the guy from Salute Your Shorts?
Oh, yeah, I think you're right. Wow. This is the first time this is the first time someone's been corrected about the movie Cutting Class since Donovan Leitch flipped over that table when someone called it Budding Class. Wow. But yeah, listen to that episode. You could join a very exclusive club by listening to that. You know, people love exclusive clubs like billionaires and people who've jerked off to the Garbage Pail Kids movie.
I think the same number of people that seen the movie have listened to our episode. Not,
Right.
not many.
Yes. Yeah, you don't have to have seen that. So many times people telling me like, "Oh, I want to listen to this episode, but I want to see the movie first." Look,
Yeah.
we recreate the movie so perfectly in your mind that you don't have to.
Wait, but did you listen to the episode? I don't know. Is that true?
I've never heard it before. Not familiar with the podcast. The Here's two strange things about this. The first one is, so to buy out John Boorman, they apparently gave him $3 million for the script. $3 million in 1976 money.
That's crazy.
I looked it up, was 14 million. That just seems 14 million. That can't be.
Yeah, that can't be.
Now here's another strange thing, Rusty. You're gonna love this. Ralph Bakshi, he heard that John Boorman was going to make this Lord of the Rings film, and he heard it was going to be only one movie. Ralph Bakshi, ironically, as things would turn out, but he couldn't believe this. He said John Boorman was going to turn into one movie, and then he also claimed that John Boorman had been marketing a pair of sneakers, and he somehow worked in the sneakers product placement into the Lord of the Rings script, which that does not seem like John Boorman at all. And how could that have fit in? But Ralph Bakshi did say that.
I would like to see what they look like. What do you think about him?
He could have like Zardoz shoes, and it's like John, this is just a cod piece that is put on a shoe. It's like, whoa, that's a bloody shoe, isn't it?
I like that you went with Zardoz.
Yeah. Hey, John, these are the Exorcist 2, the Heretic shoes. I'm surprised. I always forget that you made them. It's right. People forget I made that. I can't even do whatever act I'm trying to do.
I just want you to go through all his works. Keep pick and choose.
Man, point blank shoes. John, point boots. Point boots.
Yeah.
What else has he directed? Deliverance. Oh my God. You'll squeal with a pig when you pump these shoes up.
That's a great tagline. You got to develop those shoes.
Gotta think of one more. Oh, the Emerald Forest. Oh man, the Emerald Forest.
Now, what about somebody for a businessman? What about a businessman? They need some shoes. What do you got for them?
Oh man, for a businessman, let me just try to stall as I try to think of another film he made that I haven't mentioned yet. Excalibur Birkenstocks. Excalibur Birkenstocks. That's what I meant to say.
Now, what about something for the ladies? You got anything for the ladies out there?
Oh, nice yeah. Pump? Oh, yeah. I really need to look at IMDb right now.
I'll give you a second. You got anything?
Okay. There was a movie called The General with Brendan Gleeson, I think. All right. That's enough. Wow. John Boorman. All right.
The other thing, though, is that, what did I want to say? Oh, shit, I just lost my note.
That Tim Burton was an animator on this?
No, I did see that. That's not that interesting to me.
Ooh.
Uncredited.
Where does he get those wonderful toys? He just draws over them.
The other Ralph Bakshi film that I did see, probably the first Bakshi film, actually, definitely the first Bakshi film that I watched was Cool World, if you remember that one.
I do. The weird thing is that is like one of the only ones I've never seen.
I think that's what he was like aiming towards with Lord of the Rings. It was just like that evolution towards what he wanted to do.
So the classic question of this movie, what did you think of the rotoscoping they used?
I actually thought it was really cool. I think that was maybe the best thing the best thing I liked about the film. As
a kid, when I didn't understand what that was, it was so haunting and weird to me. Especially because you first really see it when they get to Bree, and that's the first time you see like normal humans, and it felt like, I don't know, it makes everything so strange.
Do you think everybody that listens knows what rotoscoping is? Do you need to explain that quickly?
No. Why don't you tell the people at home?
You want me? You're the film guy, but isn't that basically just taking some kind of image in this case, it's taking real live action and coloring over or transferring it to the film? I mean, I know I'm explaining this horribly, but I know what it is.
You said it beautifully.
No,
yes, it's just drawing animation over live action, and I think Ralph Bakshi's dual purposes were A, to save money, and B, that he thought that the movement, it would be so much more natural if it was actually humans.
This is the first film to do that, right? The first animation film.
No, it is not. Actually, rotoscoping, Rusty, goes all the way back to 1915, if not sooner. And the funny thing about it is that all throughout history, people seem to be like, oh, wait a second, is rotoscoping, look at all, we're doing all this animation. Maybe rotoscoping would be quicker. And then people always discover that drawing over live action is actually not quicker. And literally, that is like the history of rotoscoping from
You
the very
know,
beginnings
that's
back in
the thing I love
1915.
about the show, educating people out there. You're quoting things from 1915.
Oh my God.
Did you just have that bit of information on hand, or did you know that?
I was there, man. I really thought I was like I did not know as a kid that they had drawn over real people, so I was just like, these are incredible graphics. And I was like, why don't they get these guys to do more of the, you know? Here's the weird thing though about Bakshi said about rotoscoping that one of the reasons he wanted to do it was because animators typically felt like they had to over animate every character, so everything was over the top like a cartoon, where he wanted to capture like a real performance. But I feel like the worst thing about this movie, which is such a weird criticism, but when you watch it, you'll see what I mean. Like the acting, but not the voices, but like the acting of the characters is horrible. Like, especially when they're not like, when they're listening to lines, they're just
Oh,
doing the craziest things. You're just like, why are you reacting that much? You don't have to do anything with your face.
I know. Oh yeah, it's so over the top. But I think even the animated characters, when they're like somebody's talking and they're in the background, they're like over the top. Like their eyes are like twitching all over the place.
No, that's what I mean. I mean the
Oh, you
animated
mean the
characters.
anime? I thought you meant the live action people that they.
No, the animated,
Oh,
like
okay.
Sam when Sam's listening to Frodo and Gandalf, and
Yeah,
it's like he's giving like a reaction every millisecond. You're like, you could just keep your face like that for a second.
yeah. I mean, it looks like a lot of the animations on a loop too. Like the mannerisms are just the same thing over and over again until the end of the scene.
Um, some famous names. Wow, some. I thought there was a lot of stars in the sky, a lot of big names in this. Uh, why don't you take us through a few of these names, Rusty?
Well, the biggest name it would be Sir John Hurt. I don't even think we have to list what he's in. I think people know.
Yeah, of course, he's a legend, and he plays Aragorn.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of drawn weird though. Never loved the way he was drawn.
I think he's the most offensive looking character in the movie.
Ooh, yeah. Go on.
I don't recognize a lot of the names, but Anthony Daniels, of course, from Star Wars, is a Legolas.
Legolas's look also is like seems like a record producer from the '70s who's going to do like a lot of coke.
He should be in like Phantom of the Paradise.
Yeah, exactly. That's funny because I was thinking about what's that blonde guy in that movie?
That's who I was thinking of. Um, kind of a very minor character, Legolas.
Yeah, he's pretty minor.
Completely useless in this movie. One of the bigger names that stood out to me, though, was Philip Stone, who played Theoden.
Oh, I thought I was going to get you with this little bit of trivia.
I love that guy. He's in some of my favorite movies.
What is he in besides the big one?
Well, should I say the big one, or should that be the teaser?
Go for it.
He is Grady from The Shining. Need to be corrected. He was also the father. He was Pa in A Clockwork Orange.
Oh yeah,
and he was the Lyndon family lawyer in Barry Lyndon, which was a great movie.
I love that movie, but I can't remember him in that.
He's also in Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, but I cannot place him at all. I looked up his character.
Oh, I could totally place him. He's at the meal. He's at that controversial meal.
Oh, is he? Oh, in the very beginning?
Yeah, he's like one of the British officers. Not the very beginning, but at the temple.
With
the monkey brains and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
I could draw his outfit. Not well, but it would still look better than some of the animation in this film. Am I right? Now, I don't know if you saw this Star Wars Lord of the Rings connection, Rusty. Did you see that Anthony Daniels, best known for playing C-3PO in the Star Wars saga, he was in a film called Return of the Jedi with a Rancor Keeper. The Rancor Keeper played Grima Wormtongue in the BBC radio drama.
Oh, I thought you were saying this one. I always thought his name was Grimer. It's Grimer.
Well, it's Grima.
Okay. You know what's crazy to me is I thought I was losing it watching it, but they refer to Saruman a few times as Araman.
Yes.
And I was just like, why are they saying his name so weird? Do you not pronounce the S? And then I read that because people would be confused by Sauron and Saruman, that they changed his name to Araman, but then they decided to change it back, but they left it in a few times.
Yes, that is the funniest thing. There's like, we're going to try to make it more clear, and then they don't finish cleaning it up.
But that was always a problem I had with the Lord of the Rings books.
Yeah, that's true.
That as soon as I saw Saruman, I immediately thought he was evil, just based because it sounded too much like Sauron.
Oh yeah. Well, also, I mean, I guess we're jumping around a little bit, but it's in the scene where Gandalf is going to visit Saruman, like early in the thing.
Yeah,
It reminds me of that Mitchell and Webb sketch where they're the Nazis and they notice like the skulls are we the baddies, you know?
Yeah.
It's like if I was Gandalf's friend, I'd be like, "Hey, Gandalf, have you noticed this guy's castle looks fucking evil? Or I mean, is it just me or?"
Yeah, they made Isengard look like it could have been next to Mordor.
It was like it looks like Darth Vader's castle from Rogue One, which I really didn't like. You know, it's like he's going to the real estate agent. And it's like, well, what are you looking for? It's like, well, I am evil.
It's like Skeletor. Like you're on a He-Man's planet, and then you get to Skeletor's region. Looks like that.
Well, what should it look like, Rusty? My pretty pony?
I love when Skeletor joins the chat.
I've got a skull for a face. You want it to look like Garfield's house? I mean, I would like that.
There's one super offensive change here. Actually, I have to call everybody out about this one. Very offensive change from page to screen.
Okay.
And not only is Ralph Bakshi guilty of it, so is Peter Jackson. Something that has famously been left out of these adaptations, and I've had enough.
I'm interested.
In the novel, when Gimli meets Galadriel, he asks for some of her hair. That is not in any of the films.
You know what's funny? Jen said the same exact thing to me watching it. And she said, you know what they took out of the movie?
Really?
And I did not know that. Yeah, I did not know. And
wait, but did they take that out of the, because I can't remember if it actually is in Peter Jackson or not.
No, and Jen explained to me why they took it out.
Go on, Jen. Go on.
Because he took 3 strands of hair and it didn't show up on the film because you could barely see 3 strands of hair.
You can barely see 3 strands of hair, aka what the mirror whispers to me every night.
What was he going to do with those 3 strands of hair?
Probably start a podcast called Viewmasters.
Unless she has like hair that's like 24 feet long that we could just wrap around our heads.
Oh man, that reminds me of the time I went to the Hollywood Matchmaker, and she was like, "Well, what are you looking for in a mate?" And I said, "Do you remember in the Guinness Book of World Records there used to be a woman with hair so long she could stand on the second floor and it would touch the floor of the first floor?" Oh. And she was like, you want to date that lady? And I was like, I don't know if she's even pretty. I've never looked at her face. I just saw the hair.
Wow, that's such an iconic photo that I picture that photo perfectly.
Oh yeah. I'm doing a series of paintings of that photo.
Oh man,
a lot of mop tops in this film.
Oh,
the Hobbit hair, and they just can't keep that color straight of that Hobbit hair.
No, Frodo's hair was so offensive to me. It was like making me like physically ill looking at it. It's like, God, that hair is horrible. I really disliked Frodo and Samwise in this movie. Like Pippin and Merry are just like whatever. They're minor characters, but
I can't believe I hate Sam in this movie. Is just no one likes.
He's
Sam.
the Jar Jar Binks of Lord of the Rings in this movie.
Mr. Frodo, sir, don't let him hurt me, sir. Don't let him turn me into anything unnatural.
Yeah, he really is.
He's like goofy and I don't know.
But I thought Frodo was universally loved. But look, before we go on, let's start at the beginning. The intro.
Long ago, in the early years of the Second Age, the great elven smiths forged rings of power.
Interestingly, the intro, Peter Jackson, he got it from this movie. It's not in the book. Like I thought the book always started with this, but I guess it doesn't.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
If this was an annoying, like modern, fake, cool indie movie, it would have started with Frodo getting his fingers bitten off by Gollum, and he would look at the camera and be like, "You're probably wondering how I ended up here." I always loved this intro.
Oh,
I always thought this was so cool.
I was kind of hoping that the whole movie would look this way.
It would be a lot to watch 2 hours of like shadows.
Of like, but do you remember in the Deathly Hallows film, the Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows? I think it's the first part where like Hermione tells the story of the three brothers.
Oh yeah,
and it's like the silhouettes and stuff. I thought that was really cool looking, and this kind of like reminded me of that. I didn't know. I just found this out today with some of it, with the explanation of the rings.
Go on.
Because Jen asked me, and I didn't know, and she said, "Whatever happened to the dwarves' rings?" And I was just like, "I have no idea. What did happen to them?" So I had to look that up. Do you know what happened to the rings?
No, I can't wait to find out.
Oh wait, I thought you read the books though. You don't remember?
I did, but I read them in 6th grade, and I couldn't retain anything.
Oh,
actually, it was such a sorry like Fellowship of the Ring. I had like a pen explode in my bag, and it got ink all over it. And somehow the spine broke also. So whenever I would turn a page, the page would rip out. So once I finished the book no longer existed. But this was like the saddest copy of Lord of the Rings I was carrying around in my bad backpack. Not even backpack, like duffel bag was even worse.
There was nothing. Remember that, having backpacks where the pen would explode?
Oh yeah.
It'd just be like the bottom of the backpack would just be a sludge of ink. Whatever touched it was infected. But anyway, so the rings, the 20 rings, the dwarves got, how many did the dwarves get? 7, I think.
I think the men got 7, so I feel like the dwarves had to.
No, the men got 9 because they were turned into the Nazgul.
Oh, okay.
They got 9, so they got. But anyways, basically, from what I gathered, of the 20 rings, 1 was kept for Sauron, but he touched the other 16 except for the 3 that the elves kept.
Mm-hmm.
So all the 16 were tainted. So the dwarves' rings were tainted, but they didn't fall under like Sauron's spell. Basically, they just became super wealthy and greedy. Seems like they got off pretty easy, but they were consumed by their greed.
Yeah, consumed by greed. I could just see it. The dwarves putting their rings on eBay, the buy it now price for like $1 trillion. And they're like, "We haven't got it yet, but we're gonna get it someday."
All 5 of them are this up there, all at the same price. Not one person more competitive than the other.
I hate that. I want to have a podcast that's just interviewing people who have ridiculous buy it now prices.
Yeah. That would.
This is a cause. You would love that show. I'd be like, oh, a guy who has like a sealed copy of Karate Champ for NES and it's like $8,000. Buy it now. Be like, what? How do you live with yourself?
Yeah. Well, I would hate if there was another person with the same thing. They would do the same exact price. Like, come on, a little bit of competition. Go down at least $10. Give us something.
Yeah, exactly. That's why eBay, everything should be an auction.
Yeah,
it's called the free market. I thought you guys believed in it.
Ooh.
Well, I know. I got a little bitchy at the end.
No, did you know that Gandalf was a part of forging the rings?
What?
With the elves? Yeah, I didn't know that. So how old is Gandalf? Is he like thousands of years old?
I guess so, yeah.
I want to know, how do you become, like, how are you born a wizard?
Well, have you ever heard of midi-chlorians? Another thing about the intro, though, the shot where they're showing like a quick bit of like a war or something, and one guy runs by and like slashes the guy in the stomach, and then the other guy runs by and like hits him in the face, and he goes backwards. I always thought that was like the most brutal thing. I always loved that as a kid.
I do remember. Didn't they use footage from another movie for some of that, or is that a different scene?
I feel like that's a different scene. Oh yeah. Because I think that those are the battle scenes they used for Alexander Nevsky.
Oh, okay. Which scene was that then? Was that later?
I mean, I feel like that has to be one of the end scenes where, because I felt like they never had many extras. Even when all the people were animated, I was like, every scene doesn't have enough extras. No, it's a cartoon. You don't have to like get friends and people and like that. You could draw them.
Yeah, I always loved in the movie, the Peter Jackson movie, the Mines of Moria scene. And I was pretty let down with how many orcs there were in this.
Yeah, but that's a huge scene.
Yeah,
we'll get to that in a second.
Yeah, the last part of the intro is basically setting up how Smeagol got the ring.
It's my birthday. I've already given you more than I could afford.
I don't.
When I want it.
That's pretty good.
Our birthday present. Thief Baggins! We hates it forever! We hates it forever!
I'm working on my if I can get the cartoon Gollum and the movie Gollum down. I already have the movie Gollum down. We hate it.
I feel like if you became a hermit, and emerged from your apartment in like 20 years, you'd be Gollum.
Oh my god. They're like, well, this guy has incredible impressions of just Gollum, Obama, and he's got a Trump that sounds just like Alec Baldwin doing it.
Yeah. Very topical though.
This is Gollum, our new Secretary of State. He's a great guy. I love him. Look at him. He's cute. I think he's cute.
I like that it's
I hate Gollum. Gollum is a loser. I never liked him.
I like that it sounds like Alec Baldwin with a cold doing Trump.
Yeah, my Trump is off right now.
All right, so take us to the Shire. We love the Shire.
We open in the Shire. Bilbo Baggins' birthday. What did you think of this Bilbo Baggins?
I hated him. I hated Bilbo.
I hated him too.
He's a selfish dick, and he's also like so ugly looking.
Yeah,
gestures.
Even as a kid, I hated the way they animated this character. Just the way his face looks.
I mean, I'm not going to say the pizza place for people that live on Long Island that listen, but there's a pizza place that I go to that you have been to with me, and there's a guy there that looks just like Bilbo Baggins.
Oh, the name of that pizza place, actually, for anyone listening, is Crostini on Broadway.
Wait, you just outed me. I can't believe you just said that.
I just like the image of someone going to that pizza place and like flagging the guy down and being like, "Hey, these guys on a podcast, they said you look like Bilbo Baggins," and he's like, "They said I look like Ian Holm." It's like, no. There's a cartoon version of Lord of the Rings. They said you look like that guy. It's like, they made a cartoon. When did they make a cartoon? The guy's like, you should probably just listen to the show and rate and review.
You know, that guy is so old too.
That's why he's have his grandkids help him figure it out. He's like, these podcast things, these guys, they said I look like Bilbo Baggins, not Ian Holm. I got to find the podcast. I got to rate and review. Great group of guys.
Oh, wait. Even though we insulted him, we turned it around. He's going to rate and review it.
Well, we could have called him an orc. We called him one of the heroes of the film.
He was greedy.
There's so many worse things.
Bilbo wasn't a hero in this movie. He was just greedy. He was like a dwarf.
Wow, that's offensive. Okay. He actually, to me, looks a little. I don't want to say this, it's too insulting. I was going to say he looks like Supreme Court Justice Elena Kagan. He does, though. That's a fucked up thing.
That's actually a funny line.
I didn't want to say that. I know. I might leave that in. Proud feet.
Yeah, what's that joke about? Not many jokes in this movie. What's that one about?
That joke is very strange because are we to think that these people's last names changed just because they have more of them?
Yeah, I think so.
But Peter Jackson took that exact moment and put it in the film as a reference to this movie.
Peter Jackson took quite a bit.
Yeah, reasonable, more than you would think.
Yeah, I like it though. It made me appreciate Peter Jackson's movies more. Watching this,
yeah. Imagine aliens came from outer space after the world had been destroyed like thousands of years, and they found like our media and were watching it, and like they found this Lord of the Rings first, and for like 20 years this was the only one that they knew about, and then they were like, whoa, guys, they made another one. They made a much better one.
I feel like some of the Peter Jackson stuff though is kind of hard to watch now. It's like the CGI is like offensive.
Yeah, it's so much from its period that something about it,
it's just ugly.
Offensive is the right way to put it. Yeah.
But I know we discussed this before. I think we even mentioned it on the podcast that Shire scene in the Peter Jackson Lord of the Rings is awesome.
Oh yeah,
I love the Shire.
Me too.
In this movie though, I was kind of like, all right, I'm done with the Shire. Let's move along.
Yeah,
like not much was happening. You know what bothered me? It's such a trivial thing, but the seasons changing to signify 17 years going by. So it's like, we get it. You just say 17 years passed. We don't need to see it. But yeah, Frodo's just waiting for him. It hasn't aged.
And the scene where Gandalf reveals the origin of the ring is pretty much similar to the Peter Jackson movie.
I already forgot. Is this where Frodo offers him the ring, or is it in the other scene when they're outside walking?
This is when they're outside.
Yeah, I did like that. I like that.
Yeah.
Gandalf knows he would be corrupted by it, even though his intentions are good.
I would wish to turn it to good, and it cannot be used so. Meaning to be kind, I would become as terrible as the Dark Lord himself. Do not tempt me. I shall have such need of strength so soon.
How quickly, if you had that ring though, and you went invisible, how quickly would you be doing something pretty horrible? Not like, but like stealing or something.
Yeah. I mean, I guess quickly, but I don't know exactly what would be your best path to stealing if you could turn invisible. Like, go to a bank, but how are you gonna get back there? Wait for someone to come out, but then people are gonna see the money lifting up.
Imagine on this on this CCTV, like just saying money just lifting up and moving out the door.
Oh, that's a good fake video. If someone can make that video with like special effects and put it on YouTube and be like, this really happened.
I'd probably do something stupid like drive my car invisible, and people would be like, look, it's one of those self-driving cars. There's nobody in it.
That would be great.
You know what's crazy? As a child, that was always a fantasy of mine to somehow have a car and not be seen driving it as a kid. Like,
wow, that's a really cool fantasy, Rusty. That's really cool. I really like your fantasy about having the car.
Yeah, I can't believe I'm getting bullied on my own podcast.
How's it going, buddy?
No. This hurts. I'm telling Jed on you.
Oh, wow.
Actually, back in the day, though, I would say I'm telling my brother. Like, my brother was really going to do anything. He was like, he probably would have joined in.
One thing, when the hobbits are leaving the Shire, there's a moment where, like, I feel like they must have cut out or had plans to introduce Merry and Pippin in a different way. Because it's just a shot of them, and now they're with Merry and Pippin, and then completely different sound quality. Frodo's like, and Merry and Pippin insisted on coming with us.
I don't feel right going off without Gandalf, Mr. Frodo. I wish we could have waited. That I do.
So do I, Sam. But he said to leave as soon as we could. And Merry and Pippin insisted on coming with us as far as Bree for the fun.
I feel like this movie, there's a lot of like misjudgments by characters. Like everybody misjudges each other.
Well, I'll give you one really weird plot hole, right? Not plot hole, but just like dumb thing. Merry, like right after they leave the Shire and the hobbits are talking about like their next steps, basically, they're talking about the ring, and Merry or Pippin is like, I once saw Bilbo use that ring. And it's like, oh, wow, that's crazy. He's like, yeah, years ago. And I'm like, dude, he just did it in front of a party in front of like the whole town. Why is he acting like I once saw it?
I know. Wait, but that was 17 years ago, right?
Yeah, but Frodo was sleeping that whole time. So obviously time doesn't mean the same things to us as it does to them.
It's a hell of a nap. Wait, so how come Frodo's the tallest of the hobbits?
Oh, Rusty, my grandfather was actually Sean Bradley, the NBA player. Now, don't use him in NBA Jam. I know he's tempting. It's not good.
I met Sean Bradley. Funny that you mention him.
What? Oh, yeah, like a basketball camp?
Yeah, at Villanova basketball camp. They had an NBA player each day of the week for the 5 days. He literally came in, standing on his flat feet. He grabbed the rim and pretty much left. It was the most useless appearance.
He's like, my advice is be really tall.
Yeah. Was he good though? I don't even know.
No, he was never good. He was comically bad. That was the thing. He was just like really tall for that period. It's weird how then they became like tall people who were good at basketball.
Yeah, like
this was
Shaquille
when
O'Neal.
Like his height was like the only thing he had going for him, but it was like he's 7'6", so he's going to be in the NBA. He was like this scrawny Mormon missionary guy who just got thrown around the court.
And we're talking sports here, everyone. Get your latest sports.
Dude, they love sports talk.
Okay. Was Manute Ball good? I don't even remember if he was good.
No, he was also comically bad.
I feel like when you're that lanky and tall, like, yeah, got a lot working.
Because now there's guys at that height that have like 3-point abilities and shit.
Yeah. You do care to name who you're thinking of? What players?
I don't know any of them.
Just throwing it out.
I was like, I really sound knowledgeable on sports right now. This is cool, dude.
Yeah, that guy, he's good from the outside.
Wade Boggs, man.
I like that even when you make a reference to somebody from a different sport, it's somebody that's like been retired for 20 years.
I'm a baseball player, damn it.
And then we get the big party at the inn, which has like probably the best, like the rotoscoping there is really fun looking. Although it also kind of reminds me of the game Pit Fighter.
You know what? It does look like Pit Fighter. Oh my God.
I was like, is he not going to react to Pit Fighter? I was like, is there a fucking delay on the line?
I was about to say something else, and it processed. You could actually probably pick up that processing in my head.
Yeah.
Oh, I could see Buzz in there just picking up a table and slamming it.
The funniest thing though is this scene also, like, there's one shot. It's weird because it's kind of like when you don't get a lot of extras, which is a real huge problem in like all levels of production. But when you don't have enough extras, the key is like, don't do shots that show how few extras you have.
I know.
And this scene has like a huge wide shot of the bar from like the other side of like the bar. And you could see there's like only like 8 people in it. I'm like, why that shot?
I did find it weird looking to see the rotoscoping with like one animated character. So it's all the, all the rotoscope characters, and then it's like the innkeeper just standing there. It's just like that looks so strange to them next to each other, but
it really does. It's like it gives it such a weird quality.
The difference I noticed between this tavern and the one in the Peter Jackson one is that the innkeeper was much more friendly. He actually embraced the hobbits being there.
Yeah, and he's kind of like a character with some depth and nuance, like that we meet for just a second.
Yeah, especially when they're talking later on in the bedroom with Strider.
Mm-hmm.
But did you spot? I think I spied Billy Barty as one of the guests there.
Yes, you did.
I could tell. I like that he gets such bit parts in things, even though he's been in so much stuff.
Yeah, I'm like, he's like one of the more famous people in this movie. I can't believe he's one of the non-speaking rotoscope people.
Yeah, at least he had some lines in Willow, but just like Billy, his agent calls him up. Billy, I got a gig for you. You're gonna be in Lord of the Rings.
They're going to draw over you, but they're running out of budget and time, so they're not going to draw that much.
I feel like this would be more painstaking just to color over film. I don't know.
Oh yeah,
I mean,
there was some story I read that Bakshi had given like an animator like a crowd scene from like the final battle, and after a week Bakshi came back and he'd only like colored in like one of the people, and Bakshi was like, "Oh my god, like we got to move at a faster pace." So when we introduce you go.
I just wanted to say, you know what I noticed, because you were talking about budget reasons with some of the animation. Have you watched a Masters of the Universe recently?
Yeah, it's completely unwatchable.
It is unwatchable, but they recycle so much animation. I think that is, for the episode I watch, I know I see like 90% of that animation in other episodes.
Oh yeah,
it's crazy. All right.
But it's funny because stuff like that where you'll watch it and it's like a still image except for like one little thing is moving. This movie could have used more of that, because like there'll be someone in the background who's just like twitching wildly. You're like, why is that person twitching?
Yeah, I think they just want to make it very like unique and advanced for its time, where like in each frame something's happening.
Yeah,
where it doesn't need to be. It's kind of like the mistake Star Wars made in the prequels.
I don't like sand.
So the hobbits flee upstairs, and Aragorn is in here acting very mysterious.
He's sitting the same exact way. I think that's recycled animation. He's sitting the same way in the tavern and then in the rooms.
I hate how Aragorn, it's such like a movie trope, but he first acts like really threatening towards the hobbits and like really mysterious. Like, what if Merry suddenly got scared and tried to flee, but like in a Final Destination turn of events, like impaled himself on something, and Aragorn's like, oh no, I'm actually a good guy. It's so awkward.
I'm just thinking,
I guess I did come off threatening.
Imagine they actually accidentally killed him. Like they had their little sword.
Yeah, like stabbed him. And he's just like, I was just building intrigue. No, the last hope of men.
Oh, they're immediately just killed by the wraiths after that. It's weird that he does open with Strider, but he immediately says that he's really Aragorn. Like we didn't need the Strider thing.
I've always hated the Strider. I don't even know what that is. Is that like his code name? What the fuck is
I think
that?
that's his ranger name, right?
Yeah, but
Because his ranger name, that's like his occupation, that he doesn't want to be known, that he's got some heritage behind him.
I always hated in that scene in Fellowship when Aragorn is with Arwen and he's like looking at the broken sword and he's like, the same blood is in my veins. Like his voice sounds really weird in that moment. And it's just like, dude, like this ancient guy, it's not going to mean that you're a bad guy. You've been like a good guy clearly this whole time, you know? Like, you ever think about what your great-great-great-great-grandpa's influence on your life is?
I can't even imagine who my great-great-great-great-grandfather is.
It was Alexander Hamilton.
Oh, that's really cool.
Oh yeah. Speaking of, so he shows them the broken sword that he has.
The descendant of Isildur.
Isildur. Why do you have such a problem with that? With these names?
Well, I'm not from their world, so excuse me.
You might want to look in the mirror, Gollum.
Is it because I'm wearing a loincloth?
Did I tell the story already of when we saw the two towers? Were you with me that time in the crazy movie theater where people would just always be so loud? And this like group of teens came in, and like they entered like in the middle of the movie, and the moment they entered in was Gollum was just in a loincloth on the ground, like screaming, like and they all were like, "What the hell is that?" And just started screaming, and like the theater was just complete pandemonium.
Why is whenever a group of teens comes into a movie, it's always when the movie's like halfway over too? Why is that the thing?
Well, we do other stuff, dude. Like we go to Chili's, then we go there.
I believe you're the guy that if you saw a group of teens coming, you would cross the street to be out of their way because troubles are coming.
I'm getting to the age now where I'll do like old man scolding. I'm like, quiet, damn it.
I wish I could do that.
But it would be cooler to hang out with them. It's just like a bunch of teens like making noise in a movie theater. And there's like a 41-year-old with them. What is the story with that guy?
Yeah. You know what I found unsettling about Aragorn?
What?
That outfit that they put him in.
The outfit they put him in is utterly horrible. It's like a tunic with like a belt over it, and his like knees are exposed. They're like, who could draw knees of guys from the 50s?
As a kid, anytime animation had a character that looked like that, I was immediately turned off by that character. I was just like, I don't like that look.
His face also, like his face is just so unappealing. Like he looks kind of like a fatter John Cassavetes. Like he's got like a like a 60s drinker's smoker's face.
He's got that like old Dick Tracy nose where it's like looks broken.
Yeah. Really in it. And his hair. I hate his hair.
I hate his jawline.
Yeah.
Everything just bothers me.
Wow.
But what? As a kid, I always wondered, and this movie actually answered my question for me, what they had going on underneath that tunic. And they actually showed that he was wearing like brown briefs, matching briefs.
Oh, I missed the briefs.
How can you miss him? He had his legs like wide open. You know what I did not like about Aragorn in this movie, though, compared to the Peter Jackson one? He's not as like courageous and he's not as heroic. He just kind of goes along. Like it's his mission, but he lacks some of the skills to get him there.
My name is Aragorn, son of Arathorn. If by life or death I can save you, I will.
In those fight scenes, he gets completely like manhandled at every moment. You're just like, maybe draw him doing something good.
Yeah, and there's another scene though where he's kind of clumsy where they're running and he trips on a rock and falls.
That is so crazy. I was going to get to that because I don't even know when that is a baffling choice. That shot, I like. By the time you get to that point in the movie is so boring. Like I rewatching this, I was like, oh man, that's why my family didn't like this movie because it completely ends, but then keeps going for another hour.
Yeah.
But like by that point, it's just like that scene. So let's get to that. But so I love when the innkeeper comes in and he's like, "Be careful, hobbits! Like there's people about with that Strider," and then Aragorn like enters, like he like slams the door to reveal himself, and he's animated so huge. I just started laughing. I was like, "Who is he? Kramer? He looks like Kramer."
Yeah, I mean, but like we were saying before about the innkeeper, though, like he's very helpful because they devise a plan to keep like if the Nazgul come in, that they have this, that they're going to trick them. And like the innkeeper and some of the other patrons are going to go along with it. So it's just like, oh, he's actually really helpful. And he actually knows about what's going on, which is not really relevant to the story, but
yeah. So then they make the bodies out of this. Never looked right. You try to make it look like you were still asleep, and you made like a body in your out of blankets in your bed. Never looked right. I can't believe it fools these ring wraiths.
Did you ever do it as a child?
Yeah,
like
all the time. All the time.
I did it to play pranks on like my family or my brother.
Oh yeah, I wasn't actually. It wasn't like I was going out and doing it for practical reason. It was more like trying to see if I could simulate what they did on TV.
See, I would do it as a prank, to fool my brother, and I always grew so impatient, like waiting for him, that I was just like, forget it, it's not happening. But the Nazgul, like when they attack the dummies, they're like slapping the bodies with their swords and not like stabbing into it like in the movie with the Peter Jackson movie.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
It's also funny to me. It's like, so we cut to them going into the room. They attack the beds and then they realize they're not there. And then they leave. And it's just like, and we see that the gang is like in another section of the hotel.
Yeah, I hated that like Frodo like peeks at it and he like winks. He's like,
peeks at it and winks.
Yeah. Remember like Frodo like sits up and looks over.
At who?
I don't know. I think he's just winking at someone. Was Aragorn still up? I know the other hobbits are sleeping.
Oh, I think Aragorn's up because I think he's like on watch. Because
that's right. Yeah, that's right. Frodo like wakes up. He looks and sees what's going on and like winks at Aragorn.
Oh, I missed the wink because I was pondering how do those? It's almost like the ring wraiths are like relying on the hotel records. They're like,
well, they weren't in their room. That's what the ledger says.
Yeah, aren't they attracted to the ring? Like, why would they just leave that area once they like realized they were duped in that room? Wouldn't they just maybe say, maybe they're in another room? Maybe we should check around, see what's going on.
Yeah, exactly.
We already established how we hated most of the characters, the way they look. Were there any characters that you actually liked their look?
Well, it's funny that you said Frodo annoyed you because I've always found Frodo just to be such a hero in this film. Who did you like the look of?
I thought I would like Grandma Wormtongue, but he looked like somebody like an old pervert.
I knew you were going to say he looked like an old pervert. He looked like the 70s idea of a pervert. He
could have been like one of Leisure Suit Larry's friends. With that mustache and stuff.
Leisure Suit Larry's friends. He'd be a great companion for the game.
I really liked a lot of the villains. I liked the way the Nazgul looked. I liked the way the orcs looked.
Yeah, me too. I've always loved how they look.
I wanted to see what that cave troll looked like, but we'll get to that. We didn't get that.
And wait, you see him for like a second. He looks horrible.
You see his foot. His foot tries to step in. They probably like, oh, we can't animate this. This is too much work. Make another character.
I've always liked Saruman's like voice. Sounds so evil.
Where is the ring, Gandalf? Why do the Black Riders search for it in the Shire?
I really related to Frodo when he got stabbed on Weathertop.
Oh my god!
The hill top, the battle on the hill. Frodo looked like me in Call of Duty. He's just like sees the threat coming at him, and he's like, "Oh no!" and like can't move, and the guy just stabs him.
I like for the moment though, and I can picture you like where he's embracing for this fight, where he throws off his cloak, like he's readying up, like all right, he's ready for battle, and then he's just so weak.
Oh yeah,
he's just immediately manhandled. Thrown to the floor.
Well, the way that he's coming at the ring wraith, you're just like, what was the plan there? Just like how when Aragorn swings and it's like the guy ducks and you're just like, oh, actually that's the battle in Moria. Moria. But it's just like, where are you aiming, Aragorn?
Yeah. Oh, he's horrible with the sword. He's like this handling a sword for the first time.
But I loved after he's been stabbed and he's like on the ground bleeding and they can't find him. They're like, take off the ring, Frodo. And I was like, it's a funny scene. It's like our friend is invisible and he's bleeding to death. Where are you? He's like, I'm over here. Take off. We can't see you though.
Yeah, Aragorn's just like, take it off.
What's the matter with him? It was only a little wound.
It was an evil knife that struck him, Sam.
I feel like Frodo's a bit of a dick in this movie. He's a bit selfish. He's a bit moody. Like, remember in the scene where he's just like, "I need to be alone," and and Aragorn's about to say something. He said, "I need an hour."
Oh yeah, that was funny. I was like, how do you guys tell the time in this world anyway?
Yeah.
Also, one more thing though about that battle, when it's like the camera's going around their faces, I was like, whoa, that looks familiar. And then I saw that Peter Jackson deliberately copies that shot too.
Yeah. After he's stabbed, I don't know if I should say this now, but do they hate animating women in this movie? Because where's Arwen?
Oh yeah, she's not. I mean, I think that Peter Jackson like made her part much bigger, but yeah, she's not in this film at all.
I was just like, oh, okay, who's sending this wave to help Frodo out? And it's like, oh, it's Elrond. It's Elrond's wave with a little bit of touch from Gandalf. But yeah, we're introduced to Legolas right after the Weathertop scene.
Yeah.
And Frodo's bleeding out, but he still says to Sam, "That you're right. There's an elf."
Oh my! Oh, hooray!
Yeah, Legolas looks horrible. I think
does.
you can draw a better character than this. There's sometimes where his eyes like just look so much more fucked up than other times.
Yeah, I mean, come on, where's the sexy? And the elves are supposed to be like sexy, right?
Yeah, supposed to be hot as hell.
The one thing I was excited about watching this was, especially after being introduced to some of the characters, being like, oh, I can't wait to see what this character is going to look like. I can't wait to see what Boromir's going to look like. I can't wait to see what
Boromir's got like one of the most talked about looks from this film.
Yeah.
But so wait, was the scene where the water swipes him away, is that before Legolas or after Legolas?
After Legolas.
Okay, yeah, because that's the next
separated.
big scene. That's to me the big scene of this film. I mean, also because my dad was always quoting it. But
the river scene?
Yeah, the river scene. That scene is you want to put on some Zeppelin. You want to put on some Zeppelin. You want to get dank. That's the scene for you.
Are you referencing Zeppelin because originally they were supposed to be used for the soundtrack?
Yeah, Bakshi wanted to get Zeppelin for the soundtrack. I was reading a long, good article about this, and the guy hated the score. To me, the score has always stuck with me. But what did you think of the score?
I have to be honest with you. I was about to ask you, is there a score? It's not that memorable to me.
Oh, I feel. I mean,
I just
only
know
because like the like that just is so Lord of the Rings.
I know the songs. I remember the songs, but I don't remember. Oh, actually, I do remember like when the orcs are like marching. That was kind of cool. I feel like that was something else though. But imagine this movie with like Led Zeppelin. Somebody should do a cut of that with Zeppelin.
Yeah, dude. Zeppelin at the planetarium, and the laser show going while the movie's playing, especially this scene, because it's like Frodo being pursued by the ring wraiths, and like they're like flying, like their background just keeps changing. It's like the sky, and it's like the red, and I don't know. I like it.
The one thing I feel like a lot of the scenes are condensed.
Oh yeah,
and they don't really have that impact that they did in the Peter Jackson films. But some of the scenes are like drawn out, like the river one, which is cool. Like especially if it had Zeppelin music behind it. Mm-hmm. But you're using up a lot of that time to explain.
Well, it's true. It's true. Yeah, the time they waste on some things, like for instance, the editing of that scene is really weird. Like it's cutting back and forth between Frodo and the ring wraiths, and you're just like. And at one point, both of their horses are kind of just like walking sideways. You're like, what are these horses doing? Like, what am I watching right now? Another funny thing about that is that Frodo always looks way different when he's on a horse. And I'm like, this cartoon has a stunt double. It's like it's an actual stunt double.
But what did you think as a kid, though, when you saw his line where he was like brave, like for the Shire, you like will not take this ring. But then he immediately collapses.
Well, that has always been like a hugely inspirational moment for me. I'm not even joking, but it's totally undermined by like he first says like go back to the land of Mordor and follow me no more, which I love.
Yeah.
But then right after he's just like go back, and he says it so weakly that you're just like, oh, Frodo, you ruined it, dude.
As a little kid though, when you would do that line, did you feel really proud that like you knew your dad liked it?
If the crowd was losing their shit, I was loving it. Rivendell.
So Frodo wakes up after I guess how many days was it? 3 days that he was unconscious. He wakes up in Rivendell. Not much of a recollection except for the wave coming in.
Yeah,
the wave.
Gandalf is there, just like in the Jackson version, and kind of annoyed me though when Gandalf is like, after all the things you've done, I'm like, he hasn't done shit. It's been like 10 minutes.
What bothered me most about Rivendell was fucking seeing Bilbo again. We got more Bilbo.
Oh wait, yeah, but I have a few more things to say about this Gandalf scene.
Okay.
Because one of my big questions is, so Gandalf says, you know, if that blade had gone into your heart, you would become a ring wraith.
Yeah.
And the whole thing about the ring wraiths, their whole look is symmetry. So there's going to be one short one.
Did you notice in one scene though? There's one short orc.
Oh, I didn't. I mean, there's a few orcs that like. Do you notice in one scene there's like one orc who's just like a cousin It? It seems like there's like one random costume.
I thought he was like a swamp monster. I love that one.
Yeah, he looks like so confused, but you like that guy.
He walked through like a haystack and got stuck on him. But no, there was like one orc that's clearly like the child orc. It was the live action, the rotoscoped one.
Yeah, yeah.
So
I think I
Billy
remember.
Barty. It was Billy Barty in orc disguise.
So Frodo sees Bilbo again, and he's like, "Oh, I'd much like to see my ring again." And when Bilbo is like doing like that very overacting with his like hands and looking at the ring and like desperately wanting it, that reminded me of when I showed you that mint and box copy of Chubby Cherub for NES.
Remember with Bilbo in this scene? Actually, it was the next scene where he wanted to be the one to carry the ring.
Oh yeah. Well, are we ready to talk about that next scene? Because I have something to say about that scene.
Okay, let's go jump into it.
The big council meeting. This is the Rivendell council scene. There's one guy at that table who has his axe out. He just has his axe in his hand. It's just like
I didn't even notice that.
If I was other people, I'd be like, hey, we should keep your eye on that guy with the axe out, because like this is totally like none of us need to have our weapons out right now. That guy has his axe out.
Imagine going to a meeting and somebody just has a weapon out.
Yeah, and he's just like gesturing with the axe. He's like, "Well, my people."
Was it Gimli or was it a different dwarf?
No, it's a different. I don't know if it's a dwarf, but it's not Gimli.
First of all, Elrond did not look like I pictured him to look like. He didn't even look like an elf.
He didn't look like an elf at all. He's horrible in this.
The
best comparison you can make is that he looks a bit like Chris Sarandon from Fright Night.
He just looked like he didn't belong in this world. Like maybe he looked like something futuristic, like Battlestar Galactica.
Yeah, exactly. Battlestar Galactica. Yeah, actually, that's perfect. Yeah.
But anyway, so they have this secret. I mean, like I was saying, like with bad judgment, I feel like Elrond really like lacks judgment with how he assembles this fellowship.
Oh yeah.
Like, how does he assemble these people? First of all, Bilbo is the one that wants to take the ring, and everybody knows that he can't handle it.
Oh my God. When Bilbo is like, all right, then I'll go. Bilbo got us into this. He'll get us out of it. And Gandalf is like, no, Bilbo, your time has passed. That reminds me of us with video games. I'll play. Well, you can try, but your hands don't work anymore.
Yeah, I mean, we're still trying. We're trying to hang with the younger kids. We just both got Call of Duty, the new Call of Duty. So,
oh yeah,
trying. We're out there trying.
It's just a getting shot simulator for me.
I don't know if this is content, but I did like in one of the games you were like 3 and like 15 or something. You're like, oh, that's actually really good. That's really good.
Well, that was good. In the other game, I was like 1 in 20, but I realized I'm not even like all I do is I get resurrected. I respawn, and then I just run down the street, and I just get shot. And then I respawn, and then I just run down the street. I get shot. Then I just keep. I'm just like, this is just like a running game for me.
Yeah. Well, the worst was the World War I game. What was it?
Battlefield.
That we played. Battlefield, where you have to run for do a half marathon to get to the battlefield, and then you get killed, and then you have to do it again. I want to know who put Elrond in charge, though. Back to that. Back to him not having the acumen to assemble this group, but this task is of the utmost importance. This is to save Middle Earth from evil. And he picks some of the most unqualified people, some of the greediest bastards like Gimli and Boromir.
The funniest thing is the way that he reads the list. It's almost like reminds me of like an award ceremony, and it almost sounds as if like there's people at the table who like didn't get picked, who are just gonna be like, "Oh fuck, oh, I guess I'll just go home and wait for the apocalypse."
This is like if they called me up and be like, "Okay, we need you for a basketball game against the Lakers. Assemble a team. And I'm just like, well, I know Dan. Our friend Dan's pretty tall. I know Ed. I know Larry. It's
like, no, you could pick NBA players. You're like, no, but he's a really good guy. He's a really good guy.
It just get crushed. Like, and why is the fellowship consist of how many is it? 9 or 7?
9.
What is it? 4, 5, 6, 7, 9 of 9. Wouldn't you put together an army?
Well, they do say in one of these movies or books that it's like they can't have an army because Sauron will see.
Yeah, but I mean, they need to bring the ring to destroy it in Mount Doom, and it's like, all right, we'll bring 2 hobbits who have no training whatsoever. Oh, but let's bring 2 more hobbits. Maybe that will help. Friendships.
And the other weird thing about this planning is that it seems like as soon as the group is on the road, they're already like disagreeing about what the plan is, and they have like no plan. And it's like, so was the plan like, okay, you guys walk like 10 miles together, and then once you get like the first fork in the road, why do you fight it out? And like, it's so weird that they're not all just like, oh yeah, we're taking Frodo to Mount Doom. They're like, oh, some of us gonna go this way. I don't know, maybe I'll go that way. Or
you would think probably Gandalf too. One of them would be in charge. It just seems like they all have their own agenda and their own opinions. It's like, come on, fall in line.
But the funny thing is, so in the council scene, Frodo famously volunteers and he's like, I will go, although I do not know the way. And you're kind of like, yeah, that's a good moment. He's brave. Gandalf gives him a look. And then in the very next scene, like literally the next scene, they're walking and debating if they should go to the Mines of Moria or like another route. Yeah. And Frodo is like, I will go if Gandalf thinks we should. And you're just like, you can't do that same beat 2 scenes in a row.
But before we jump to when they're on the road, though, just got to talk about Boromir.
Oh, well, yeah. Okay. This is the big topic of the film.
Oh, my God. I didn't know it was a big topic, but
yeah,
I was shocked to see what Boromir looked like. He talk about out of place.
Yeah, he is a Viking. Just a pure Viking.
He looks like... Now, I know you love freak characters from the WWF days. Remember the Berserker?
Not really.
For anybody that's a wrestling fan, well, he's wearing the same exact outfit. The Berserker had to be based on somebody at the WWE. Probably was just like, I really like the Lord of the Rings growing up. We got to make a character look like Boromir.
It's so bizarre how Aragorn and Boromir, none of them are wearing pants. It's like
what a future. What a
it's
world.
Like Elrond, how about this? We have a plan and we have some pants. Because the next, 10 minutes from here is like a snowy area.
They don't even have a coat. Wait, was Elrond wearing pants or was he pantless?
No, Elrond is also wearing a tunic like the other ones. The only one wearing pants is Legolas, who seems to me like the one who probably most believably not wear pants.
It's kind of like with Star Wars, where they made the mistake with the Jedis all having to wear tunics like on the sand planet of Tatooine.
Oh yeah.
Plus Boromir. Oh, actually, all of them are riding bareback too. So that probably was pretty sore when you have nothing going on to protect you.
So they go to Moria. I can never say that.
It's Moria.
Moria. Speak friend and enter. It seems like saying friend and that seems like the only solution. Doesn't it? Yeah. Especially the way they enunciate it, or not enunciate, but the way it's not like a comma.
That's shit that a kid would figure out at like 5 and be like, feel really smart about it. Oh, you know what I hated though? Is after Gandalf suddenly remembers how to open the door.
Yeah, and he laughs.
Yeah, but as they're all starting to enter, Sam and Frodo, who are amongst them, who could probably hear the excitement, are like turn around and be like, oh, look, the door is open. They were there. It's not like they were walking around the lake and came back and it's like, oh shit, the door is open. They were there. They should have seen it.
Yeah. And the lake monster gets Sam's oh Bill. Oh, poor old Bill.
Poor old Bill.
I feel like one of the worst shots in the movie is them entering the place in Moria with the well where they hang out for a little while. It's like the scale of it is like really off, and they're like coming down the stairs, and it's just like, ooh, it just looks ugly. I don't know if remember the shot.
I do. I love the Moria mine scene in the Peter Jackson movies, and not so much in this one.
Yeah,
I felt
like
rushed.
It was still. It does feel rushed, but I do Maybe it's the power of the Peter Jackson one that kind of carries it, but it's always been spooky and well done to me.
Oh, really? I do like when Gandalf is reading from like the tome.
Oh yeah, he opens up this dusty book and he says, I mean, everyone remembers this. He reads and he's like, rate and review the podcast. The only thing I don't like about when he's reading that stuff in this one in the book, and he's like, he reads a bunch of stuff that's like, pretty compelling. And then he's like, and something about a watcher in the water. We're like, dude, we already saw the fucking lake monster. So we don't have to end with that. When Gandalf is reading the book, it would be funny if the last line, like instead of like drums in the deep, and it's like the last line is like, oh, JK, we're fine. But Gandalf is like, Gimli, I'm sorry to say, but that looks like orc writing.
That would have been great.
I love how the Balrog arrives late. He's like, I was on the shitter. What's going on? I was on the shitter, guys.
Now his size changes dramatically because he shows up and he's not that much bigger than the orc.
What in the Peter? I couldn't remember. He's like a flame monster, right? Like he's like flames or something.
He's like a gigantic flame monster. And
in this he's like a lion with like wings.
Yeah, and he's like maybe like 10 feet tall. He just like walks in, got my whip. He's got like a regular whip too.
And
he's Indiana Jones entering the scene.
He has like the fight with Gandalf. Like, you shall not pass. Gandalf, knocks
you cannot pass out. In this one.
You cannot pass.
Yeah.
But here's my question. Here's my question. When the orcs were watching the Balrog fall, were they like, one of us should tell him he has wings?
There's two problems I have in this scene though. Is first, like when the Balrog shows up, there's maybe like 9 orcs there. It's not really that menacing. The Fellowship could have handled them.
Oh yeah.
And the second thing is like once Gandalf falls and Frodo's kind of like, no. And Aragorn's like, we have to go. That was his wishes. They're immediately done with the mines after that. They just walk out the door. Yeah. So Gandalf easily left with them.
Yeah. They come out the door. When they come out the door, this is a really quick shot, but it's really funny. Aragorn kicks one of the orcs off. The shot of him falling is like a paper doll that like barely moves. It's just like, pew! Yeah. It's like so quick that even like they cut it so quick because they were like, oh, that shot looks like shit.
Yeah. But I was just watching that, and it was my first time watching it. I was like, that's it? That's the Moria mines? In
the post Moria scene, I laughed at Aragorn is like, there may be a bit of a scar, Sam. It's like, oh, you're a fucking doctor? Like, there may be a bit of a scar. You're on a mission to save the world. Your like best friend just died, and now you're like, who cares?
The thing that bothers me though, they have their mission. Their one objective is to destroy the ring, but they get sidetracked with so much other shit.
Yeah, but they act like they have no direction. They have all these little scenes where they're just like, where to now? And you're like, to Mount Doom. What the fuck?
Yeah. But wait, so how do they wind up where they're going to, what's it called?
Lothlorien,
yeah. Wait, did they, what's the other one called? Like Minas Tirith? Did they go there? Or they just mentioned that?
They just mentioned that.
That's
where
Boromir's
like
people are, right?
That's the Gondor place where the Return of the King battle is going to be.
Right, okay. Which we was surprise. We'll never see that.
We'll never be seeing that.
No. Yeah, I can't wait to talk about that. But wait. So when do we see Theoden?
That's
later, right?
Yeah, that's after Lothlorien. Lothlorien's the next thing.
Was there? Wait, am I remembering this incorrectly? Was there a band that we knew growing up called Leaves of Lothlorien, or was that a different name?
No, you're remembering it quite right. And I even have in my notes here the band Leaves of Lothlorien. This, I bet we have, I bet you there's like 3 people who know, and not just people we're friends with, but listeners who'll know who this band is.
Yeah. For the longest time, because I wasn't into Lord of the Rings until later on in life, that I had no idea what Lothlorien meant.
Oh, interesting.
And I was just like, I didn't want to ask because I didn't want to be one of those people that were in on it. So I was just like, well, this Leaves of Lothlorien.
Anyway, for the people at home, Leaves of Lothlorien were like a emo band who were very on like the more towards like a Joanna Newsom folky side than most bands in that scene. They sound nothing like her, but more like that than most bands in that scene. And I love them, even though all they had was like a demo with like 3 songs on it, and they had no fans. I wrote them a fan letter.
I thought
They
you
were
said
like, I became friends with the guy. We'd call each other on the phone, and, like, talk.
I thought you were going to say you booked them. I thought you did book them, maybe for a show.
Oh, I did. Oh, dude, I booked them for like 5 shows. They were like, I was like, gotta get my Lee's Lothlorien guys back out here. One of my favorite little moments in Lothlorien. So they're also famously, they're also playing a song for Gandalf, and the music in the background is just like as if Ralph Bakshi came into like a choir. It was like, hey, just give me some 70s sounding bullshit. You got 10 minutes. It's just like, gonna be Victoria.
Yeah, I don't know. Like I said before, I didn't really love the music. I would have preferred some Led Zeppelin.
Yeah.
They're playing like Whole Lot of Love, and like Aragorn's just like, that's for Gandalf. That's about Gandalf.
So when this song is playing, there's kind of like a quick montage of everyone hanging out in Lothlorien. And a moment that made me laugh is like Sam picks up 2 flowers, like picks them out of the ground, smells them, and then throws them over his head. Just like, imagining the elves like watching from behind a curtain, or like, are you fucking seeing this fucking guy? Yeah, he just pulled the flowers out. He just ripped the flowers out. No, I'm gonna say something. Well, they're leaving in the morning? Okay, well, if they're leaving in the morning, fuck it. But look at this fucking guy.
Imagine that, just seeing somebody like fucking litter or something. This
yeah. No, you're just like, you're in your house, you're like looking at in the garden, and you just see a guy like throwing the flowers in the air and like doing a little dance. You're just like, come on, man.
I read that the Elvish rings were to protect Rivendell and protect the Elvish areas and keep it like pure and beautiful. And then he got this guy coming in and just destroying it.
And Sam's character, like, you know, just like in the other versions, is he's really into elves. But in this one, he looks so disgusting that you're just like, ugh, it makes it kind of gross. Where it's like, oh, please, Mr. Frodo, we're going to say elves. You're like, ugh, keep him away from the elves.
This is not the scene where they look into that mirror thing, the liquid mirror.
Yeah, that's like right after that.
Okay. This is when they first meet Galadriel, right?
Yeah.
They're so the animation for when each one of them goes up to her is so awkward.
Oh my God, yes.
You can feel how uncomfortable it is watching it. Like Sam just goes up and he's just like and runs away. Like that scene just seems so unimportant.
I love in the next scene when they're looking in the water.
Yeah.
Also, I love how she's like, "Don't touch the water." It's like, who was the first person to touch it? What happened to that guy? It's like, oh my God, my cousin, 3,000 years ago, he touched the water. You don't want to see his hands. You could see the future if you looked at his hands.
I think she explains it though. I don't want to correct you, but I'm going to. I think she explains why, because she says, "Don't touch the water." Like Sauron could like see you if you do or something.
Oh, okay. Well,
so I guess if he touches it, it forms maybe a connection to what he's saying, his future, his destiny.
Yeah.
But like, of course, Sam like sees it and he's just like, "I gotta go home." And she's like, "Sam, now it doesn't mean it's happening now. It could be your future, and it might not even happen." And he's just like, "Okay, Frodo, I'll stay with you."
It's so funny. He is like just like classic, like from 70s cartoons. It just was like the bad sidekick character, and like that's
the bumbling
who this guy
idiot.
is.
Yeah, he's supposed to be the comic relief, but he doesn't offer much comic relief, and he's just a kind of a bumbling idiot that's annoying. Did you know though that like Galadriel has one of the rings, the 3 rings that remain?
Mm-hmm.
Like Gandalf has the other, and then Elrond. But Galadriel's ring is the only one that's has always remained on her finger.
Oh, that's awesome bit of trivia. She must have such a tan line.
It's true. But in that scene though, where she resists the ring, can you explain that scene to me? Because is she like, is there a duality there that she's tempted by it, that she could be evil and she's kind of fighting herself? Is that what's going on?
Yeah. Okay. But I think the way they like structure her dialogue in this kind of ruins that tension, because she's like, nah, I don't want it. And then she's like, well, what if I did want it? And then she like, goes through that. But it's like, but the way she said, she was so convincing when she was like, she didn't want it. So you're like, I know she's not taking it.
What's going through Frodo's head as he was watching her have this dialogue with herself? She's like, yeah.
And I like when she's like, no, I will fade. And you must depart in the morning. It's like he's like, well, I wasn't going to hang out too long. I mean, obviously.
She's like, I saw what your friend did. You both out of here. So, wait, no. I just watched this like a couple hours before recording and I already forgot. How do they wind up in the canoes?
That's, the next part of their journey. They get the canoes, I think, from the elves. And they're going down the river and like they see those statues. And Aragorn's like, if Gandalf was here, and then he trails off, and it's like, what? It's like, what? He would like the statues? Like, it's a weird place to trail off.
Well, he's just like, that's my ancestor. One's Ithador or Ithador, whatever, however you say his name.
It's like, if Gandalf was here, I would have pointed that. I would have name dropped. I'd be like, look at that statue. I know that guy.
Well, Gandalf fought side by side with them, right? So Gandalf would have been like, yeah, I remember these guys. These blokes.
I'll tell you some stories about them.
Maybe they're just kind of like showing off and it's like, look how great mankind is. But wait, so how do they get separated? Like, this is where all chaos happens, right?
Well, they have another moment of indecision where they're like, I don't know where we're going to go. And you're like, but you're destroying the ring. That's the fucking point.
Yeah.
And like, so then they end up with like in an indecision moment where they don't know what they're going to do next. And they kind of like pull off to camp for a bit. And that's where things go wrong.
Is that what, but see, I'm drawing a blank here. Is that where the orcs show up?
No, this is, this leads to the orcs showing up, but Boromir.
This is when Frodo needs his hour to himself, right?
Yeah, Frodo's like, I need an hour.
That's right.
And then Boromir's like, yeah.
Hey, can we have a talk?
Yeah, he's like, it is a gift. It is a gift. It's just like, Boromir, how are you going to weaponize this thing, though? Like, you've seen it just turns people invisible.
Yeah.
What are you going to do?
Yeah, he's just like, but if we could just bring it back, he won't drop it. He's just like, just give it a chance. Yeah. Like, hear me out. You're not hearing me out.
You're pretty like, when he gets shot, you're like, oh, I'm so glad.
He gets shot in a pretty brutal manner too.
This reminded me.
Wait, how did you handle that as a 4-year-old? Just arrow after arrow with him bleeding out.
Dude, I loved it. I used to draw such violent pictures of like Davy Crockett. I mean, they were not politically correct. It was always like Davy Crockett and like Native Americans and like blood and like muskets,
Yeah. I mean,
I think. But also here's another memory I had. As a little kid, I used to have a bow and arrow and like a compound bow. I mean, this is like 7th grade. And
you love that compound bow.
I did. And I used to go over the Luisi's house and shoot it in their backyard. But when we would break like an arrowhead, we used to shoot the arrows just to get rid of them, like into the weeds above their house. And the arrows would just fly so far. But not until like a few years ago, when I was walking around down there, did I realize like the next street over was just like a backyard's length away. So we must have been raining arrows down in people's houses. Like we felt like the weeds stretched so much further than they actually did.
Oh my God. Imagine you like hit somebody. They have to take the person to the hospital.
I was just thinking, like, what I met a few people this week from Long Island. Like, what if I was like, oh, from Seaford, and they were like, oh, where those arrow killings were? I'm like, wait, what? And I had just missed the story. I just never encountered that story, and I was like, oh, I'm like, act fucking casual. I love how after Boromir gets shot though, and he's dying, and Aragorn comes across him, and he's like, you must go to Minas Tirith. It's like you're asking for a favor as you're dying. It's like you must help me move next week.
But he also said, like, I asked Frodo for the ring. I failed.
Yeah.
And he's just like, you must go to Minas Tirith.
He admitted it like twice.
Yeah. Aragorn's just like, just die already.
Yeah.
Aragorn actually sent him to his death because when Merry and Pippin were just running away, he's just like, go after them. Get him at all costs. Like, we have to get him. But yeah, that's like where the chaos is happening. So like Frodo disappears and goes into one of the canoes, and then Aragorn's looking for him. And this is Sam's big moment in the film. It's just like the boat.
Oh, I'm coming, Mr. Frodo.
I hated that. I'm going to get wet.
And then he like jumps in the water and then swims, and then he's like, I'm drowning, Mr. Frodo. You're like, can he swim or not? What the fuck?
Yeah. Frodo didn't even want him there, but then he's just like, okay, fine. You come along. But when Merry and Pippin, where they think where Aragorn and Legolas and Gimli think they're abducted, why has that become their mission? Shouldn't they be helping Frodo and Sam?
I mean, if you like, it's like the end of Fellowship of the Ring, the Peter Jackson version, is them like getting on the boats, going down the boats. Like this movie, by this point, just goes completely off the rails. Where then it tries to ram in two towers in the last like 18 minutes.
Yeah, oh, for sure. You know,
this is when it just becomes like utterly pointless at this point.
You know, it's one funny scene though with Boromir getting shot by arrows. He's like against the tree stump or whatever he's against, getting shot, and Merry and Pippin are just standing next to him, just watching, and they don't know how to react to it. Just like, okay, 2 more arrows, which you don't even offer to help him. And like Boromir doesn't even say like, "Run, you guys, run! I'm taking these arrows for you." It's just like they're just all hanging out.
I mean, look, these guys, they can't even figure out their own hair color. Of course, they're not going to know what to do then.
I love when they're running away and they just like, how did they not see all the orcs just standing there? They just run until they bump into them.
That is an incredible shot. They're just like running, and then the way it's just completely.
I do love whenever you see the shots of the orcs in the rotoscoping, and you just see each one, and each one has like a distinct look almost. Like some have like clearly like a gorilla mask that's been altered, and then some look like a swamp monster, and then there's. And I was just like, these if they marketed Lord of the Rings the way they did with Star Wars, there would have been like some cool like Cantina-esque looking characters that they could have had figures for.
Yeah, there's something about that their looks is very haunting.
Oh yeah,
like So then Aragorn and Legolas and Gimli.
Wait, I thought you were going to say more to that. They were
they were haunting. Like when they're green and they're like the red eyes. It's just like when they're shot right. It's just like that's interesting.
Yeah. So the Aragorn and Legolas and Gimli.
This is incredible. This is incredible. Like this is when I totally turned on the movie because it goes to a montage of them running in slow mo,
and they're
running, and you're just like. Are you stretching out the running time? It's already a pretty long movie, but you also wasted a lot of other time.
But they're not running towards anything yet. They're like running in a serpentine pattern.
That scene would only be good if like we didn't know if people could actually do animation and like that. This is the guy's like, I'm proving it could be done. Like, look, I made these people run. It's like otherwise, there's no reason to look at that. And then Aragorn falling on a rock, and that you're just like, what? This is the best hope for the world. This guy just can't even run.
I had to rewind that to be like, did the arrow fly past him and he dodged it? Like, what is he doing? He's like you. He's you in Call of Duty, just running down the field, tripping and getting killed.
It was horrible. He like and cutting back and forth to Pippin. Like they cut back and forth. Like I get that they're trying to establish it's been a while, or it's like over a long distance, but it just seems so tedious when it's going back and forth between them.
And then they have the moment where Gimli's like, I can't run anymore.
And then what happened? They're just like, keep running. And he's like, all right.
Yeah, they're just like, oh, they're like, how far ahead are the orcs? And it was like, oh, at least a day. Should we keep going? He's like, we got to run. And then Gimli's like, I can't run. Can't do it. But he just runs. Man, Gimli has that big beard. I didn't realize how bald he was up top.
Oh, yeah. That was good to see.
It was good. Finally, a character for us.
Here was an infuriating moment, like in the very next scene.
Wait.
Oh, okay.
If you had to choose Gimli's hair, or lack thereof, your current hair, or Aragorn's hair, where are you going?
Oh, wow. This is like the end of Teen Wolf. I realized I had to just be myself. But if you gave me Frodo's hair, then yes, I'll be having that.
I hate that hair. Okay, what were you going to say? What's infuriating?
Oh, the very next scene where Sam and Frodo are looking at Mount Doom, and they're like, "That's where we have to get, Sam." Frodo's like, "That's where we have to get," and like we see Mount Doom, we see like the sky flashes over it, and then Sam goes, "We're playing Lost, Mr. Frodo," and it's like, "How are you lost? You're looking at your fucking destination, you idiot."
The other thing is when Frodo's like talking about it, does it seem like doesn't Sam like just awkwardly stand up and starts whistling?
I mean, that sounds right.
But I mean, like Frodo's like this guy. He's just like, we made it this far, and he's just like, I could only imagine if we make it to our destination and we toss the ring into the fire. And then Sam just stands up and starts whistling. Like, shouldn't he offer something to that? Be like, that would be amazing, or that's we gotta try. We gotta try our hardest, Frodo. Instead, he's just
And
like,
then-
no.
And then right there is when Gollum gets introduced pretty soon, right?
Yeah,
Like in this scene.
I liked Gollum in this movie.
Oh
don't
yeah,
know
I
how-
kind of like him too.
I feel like Andy Serkis took a bit of his character, of his portrayal from this movie.
I definitely. I mean, it feels a lot like that. Whereas like the Rankin Bass Gollum is like totally different. So it's not like
Yeah.
like I definitely think that's probably
He sounds a little bit the same. He's playful.
yeah.
He's likable.
For some reason, it was always so visceral to me when they tied him up with the elven rope, and he's like, "It burns, it freezes, oh hobbits."
I thought you were going to say that you wished you were tied up with that rope.
Well, I did. Woo!
Yeah. I mean, how is it in the Peter Jackson movie? Does Gollum become that loyal that quickly? I guess he does, right?
Yeah, basically. I mean, I feel like this is like a very sped up but loyal version, like the same kind of thing as the Peter Jackson thing, because he has like the whole scene where he's talking to himself. He has a scene where he goes like, "Snake gun."
I feel like Gollum's like a character that we could all relate to. He's a little bit of us. He's lonely, just needs some companionship. Driven
only by a strong internal need that he doesn't even know what he even wants anymore, but he's like just torn apart by it. Well, he does know what he wants. He wants the ring. What am I talking about? Look, it's getting late. It's getting late.
Yeah, I really liked Gollum in this movie. I think he was a breath of fresh air as we're like an hour and 50 minutes into this. We got like 10 minutes left.
He's a breath of fresh air, and the Battle of Helm's Deep, which I used to love as a kid, is pretty boring.
It's like that action that I don't really need as an adult. It's like kind of forced. It's boring. Our heroes are just it's so like drawn out but quick. It's odd. It's very odd feeling.
Yeah, it's hard. It's funny because I remember when it was reaching the very, very end and Gandalf appears, and I was like, I know there's only like 7 more shots, but it seemed to take like an hour, even though it was really only like 30 seconds probably.
I didn't realize that they don't include Return of the King in this one.
Oh, wow.
So
like, I'm really up in for a long experience.
Jen fell asleep and I woke her up to be like, I just paused it and there's like 10 minutes left. How are they wrapping this up? How are they doing this? We're only in Helm's Deep right now.
Wait, there's one amazing moment. I don't know if you noticed this. There's like a shot of the orcs outside Helm's Deep using a battering ram, but they're using it just on a castle wall, and they're like right next to a door, but they're hitting just like a stone wall with it. I was like, that would never do anything. They're right next to a door. It just looks like the shittiest animation.
You know what?
I was also going to say, then there's like one of the shots up on the ramparts when there's like battling happening. There's one human guy who's just swinging a sword. Like,
I saw that.
Yeah, it's like a video game glitch. You're like, what the fuck? It's just like the quality control is falling apart.
Yeah, I do also like that, where there's like action between one of the humans and the orcs, and then there's another human that's just frozen on the side, like just to fill up the screen. Just like that person could be helping out, but meanwhile his comrade's being slashed to death.
When Gandalf shows up. Oh, another funny thing though is I used to think that the arrows, I was like, oh, that part when the arrows come, there's like thousands of them, is amazing.
Yeah.
And then when it happened, it was just like little drawn like things in the background. I was like, I can't believe I thought that was amazing.
Yeah. Before I just want to say, you know what the other thing is useless in this movie? The whole thing with Treebeard.
Oh yeah. Oh my God. That's like, why did they include that if they were only going to do one scene with him?
Yeah. The thing I hated though is like when Treebeard explains to Merry and Pippin that he's not on any side yet because nobody's on their side.
Mm-hmm.
And then he's just like, but I do hate orcs for what they're doing to the forest. And like Merry and Pippin just clap for way too long.
Oh my God. Yeah. That is such an awkward, funny moment. I was cracking up so hard.
But that just ends their story. So how did you fill in that blank? As a kid,
I think even as a kid, I was like, okay, that's just, they kind of didn't go anywhere with that. Just ignore that.
They were just a side character, so we don't really need to know what happens to them. They're fine. They're fine.
The funniest thing is they start like the brown-haired one, Pippin, I think.
Pippin's the darker hair one, yeah.
Yeah, starts clapping, then kind of stops, and then claps again.
I don't know what to tell you.
So here, okay, so then the battle of Helm's Deep, they fall back into the castle where it's like Theoden is like, I'm not gonna die here like a trapped badger, and they do like the ride out or whatever, and he starts just calling to Gandalf. Is that how it works in the Peter Jackson movie? I felt like it had a lot I
think they were
dramatic oomph to it.
Oh yeah, definitely. I think they were like they were basically backed into a corner, or were they circled?
Yeah, well, they're circled in this too, but it's like it seems so much more inevitable that Gandalf is coming, rather than like a suspense tension.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. Wow. I mean, they had 30 seconds left. What do you think they're going to do?
I swear, the final when Gandalf comes in, the score is ripping off the end song of Rocky, like the like. I swear to God, I'm gonna play both those. Here's the Rocky. And now here's Gandalf. And I swear to, so this movie very famously ends abruptly with like a voiceover that's like, and this concludes part 1 of The Lord of the Rings. I swear the narration used to be different, but that could just be a false memory. But because the narrator this time was like, and then they vanquished all the evil people of Middle Earth, and all the good people lived happy lives. And I was like, I don't remember that part.
Yeah, we didn't really get much of a ending of the story here.
Oh no! It's Gandalf throws a sword in the air. I could have swore it ended. I gotta look that up.
Wait, didn't Orson Welles do something for this?
He did the narration of the trailer.
Oh, okay, that's what it was.
Then will mortal men with dwarf lords and elven princes come to stand together in a single noble army and thunder against all the hosts of darkness at the very gates of doom.
So, but I read, and I might have read it quickly, that Ralph Bakshi never planned on doing a sequel to this.
I have heard different things. I heard that he totally was making a sequel, and they like screwed him at the last second because Heaven's Gate, their other big movie at the time, was such a bomb. But then I also read the thing that you read that he had never planned on making a sequel. So I'm not really sure though, because he also said that he was so critical of Boromir for doing it in one movie, but then he did it in one movie.
Yeah. So when they did the TV movie years later of Return of the King, does that pick up where this left off, or is that completely different?
Well, that's a funny thing I was reading. So that was Rankin Bass who did The Hobbit, but the animation was actually a Japanese company where Miyazaki had worked before he started Studio Ghibli, and that's why I've always thought The Hobbit has such a weird style. Like, I remember being a kid being like, what is this style? But the weird thing about Return of the King, I was reading that like they end up jumping forward, and like it was their intention to do like a sequel to this, even though they were not related, but they ended up like missing so much stuff that it ended up being nonsense anyway.
Worth checking out.
I mean, I think I've seen it once, and it didn't leave much of an impression, but I was reading that it's pretty bad.
Well, this one's left a 40-year, actually not 40-year, 37-year impression on you. Would you recommend this movie to people?
Yeah, big time. Even though it's horrible, it's like weirdly compelling. It's where if you haven't seen it, you should see it.
I feel like if you've seen the Peter Jackson movies, it's definitely worth seeing, and it actually makes it probably a better experience.
Yeah, it's fun to see how these scenes are interpreted a different way, and the way that it influenced the movie and all that stuff.
It's also quite shocking to see the way the characters look.
You know what I've never processed till just now?
What?
Orlando Bloom. His name is Orlando? We should make a bigger deal about that. That's a ridiculous name.
Can we end there?
Come in, Mr. Frodo! Come in! It's only water now.